Okay, looks like I'm live. Hey, can you guys see me? Okay, let me just make sure everything is set up here. All right, I'm live. I see you guys. Sorry I'm late. Y'all know I ain't never damn on time to my streams. I just try and guesstimate a time that I'll be around. So I guess 6, I was wrong. I meant 6:30. Hey, you guys. I hope everybody is doing good today. Okay, that's what's up. So you finally caught a live stream? All right, yes, the queen is here, honey. I hope you guys are doing good today. First, before we get into the topic at hand, I want to thank everyone on YouTube, on Instagram, people who text me. Thank you guys so much for the congratulations. My son graduated this past Sunday from high school, so I am a proud mom, okay? So thank you guys so much for like the well wishes, the prayers. That's what I've been focused on, okay? This whole year is making sure he's on track and he did what he had to do. So I'm super proud of him. So thank you guys. How's everybody doing? Okay, everybody can hear me? I heard somebody say they couldn't hear. If you can't hear, it might be on your end. Everybody can hear me? Okay, cool, cool. All right, thank you. What's up, moderators? Thank you guys so much. We had a really good time. So, June is going to be a busy month for me. So, starting next week, I'm going to be traveling. So, I'm going to be like literally popping in and out of Minnesota. So, I've been trying to get so much stuff together before I hit the road. So, I'm going to be still live streaming. I'm going to be doing more live streams and I am going to be doing regular, solid, edited videos. It seems like you guys like this a lot more. You guys like me to come on live. And then on top of that, it's a little bit easier because I'm going to be on the road more. So, all right. So, we got a lot of people in here. That's what's up. So, anyways, if you follow me on the gram, what happened is, okay, so I've been really busy with the whole graduation thing, getting things together. So I have been hearing about Ava Duvernay's new Netflix documentary that she put together. It's a 4-part series. It's called How They See Us, okay? So people have literally been DMing me, blowing me up. T, have you seen this? You got to watch the documentary. I had not gotten a chance to see it, okay? Now, if you guys know, Armand called me the other day during his live stream. He called me live. He was doing like a birthday live stream, and I was in bed laying down watching another documentary about basketball, okay? So I was watching that because I usually put like all my documentaries that I want to watch in order. So he called me. I was in the middle of that documentary. So once I got done watching that, I said, I'm going to go ahead and watch the Ava DuVernay documentary, but I didn't get a chance to watch it that night. So last night I said, you know what? It's about 11 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and watch it now because I just only wanted to watch one episode. I had no plans to watch all 4. So I watched the first episode and I'm just shook. At this point, I'm like furious. I'm going through a bunch of emotions. And then you know how Netflix is. They don't let you stop to think. Automatically, the second episode pops up. So I start watching that. It was insane. Okay, let me see some of the comments. What's up, y'all? Thank you so much, Cornelius. So the second episode came on. I watched that. So now it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, yo, I need to go to bed. Then the third episode started playing. You guys, it had me so captivated. I didn't even want to like pause it to go use the bathroom. I'm like, I have to go pee. But it's like, I didn't want to miss anything. Then I have to remind myself, you can pause the shit and go pee, bitch. Okay, just pause it. Hit pause and go pee. Okay? So I hit pause and I went pee and I came. Too much info? Okay, and I came back, right? So I watched the third episode. And then I watched the fourth. And literally, by the time the fourth episode went off, now it's like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I am livid. I'm just going through so many emotions that the first thing I did, I hopped on the Instagram and I made that post that you guys saw like 4:30 this morning. I'm like, I just got done watching this. I'm so pissed. I'm so hurt right now. I gotta go live. We gotta talk about this. So this is why we're here, okay? Because I was in my damn feelings at 4:30 this damn morning, okay? I finally eventually went to bed and I woke up about noon. But I was hot. I was hot. So let me see here. We got a lot of people in the chat. It's just been crazy, this stuff that's been going on. Let me check some. This, like, YouTube just sucks, I swear. The chat is freezing up again. Again, if we have any technical issues, this will be a podcast. You know how we do. Because YouTube is always on some fuck shit. Whenever I talk about serious topics, all of a sudden here comes all the technical glitches, okay? So I'm hitting refresh, so we'll see what happens. So anyways, I watched all 4 episodes and it left me really, really upset. So for those of you guys who have not watched it, there's going to be some spoilers. If you guys don't want to see spoilers, you shouldn't be here. So let's start with this. Put a teacup in the chat room if you watch the full documentary. I want to know who all watched it. Put a teacup in the chat if you watch the documentary. My page is refreshing. Thank you, Brittany FFF, for the super chat. We'll get on that in a minute. Okay, cool. So for the most part, everybody watched it. Okay. So you watched it last night. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Because I told everybody this morning on Instagram, watch it before I go live, okay? So if you haven't watched it, don't be in the damn comment section crying tattoo tears about spoilers. You've been warned. Get out of here with that fuck shit, okay? We about to go deep. So, now let me go ahead and explain to you guys first, you know, how I found out about the Central 5, okay? This is not a story that I was very familiar with. And this is me being honest. And I think that we shouldn't shame people because they don't know, you know, certain things. This happened when I was a kid. I was probably like, I don't know, 6 or some shit. So anyways, I didn't know anything about this. My first exposure to the Central 5 was when Trump was running for president. And I saw people saying things like, oh, he was trying to get the Central 5. You know, he wanted them to have the death penalty. He was running full page ads in the, you know, the New York Times. So that was my first real introduction to the Central 5. Even though it's national news, and for you guys on the East Coast and in New York, I'm sure you guys know about this story, your parents. I grew up in the Midwest. So I don't know. I don't remember this story really as a kid. The main news thing I remember when I was younger is the LA riots. Like, I remember my mom and dad watching the LA riots and all that stuff. So I didn't know about the Central Park kids until I got older. So, you know, I did some Googling, but I really didn't think too much of it. And I think one of the things that really surprised me that I just wasn't aware of it. I knew they were teenagers, but I thought they were older teenagers. I thought they were like 18, 19 years old, okay? So that's what I thought this whole time. I had no idea that these were babies. The youngest was 14. The rest were 15. And then the oldest one, who just had a birthday, was 16. These are babies. And the whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, what in the world? I have a 13-year-old upstairs right now in bed. I could not imagine somebody coming into my home, getting my 13-year-old, accusing him of something, and just the helpless feeling as a parent. Okay, me being a parent, I just felt so helpless, and I felt so bad for those parents because it's like, what do you do in that situation? Let me read some of the comments. So people are saying, yes, it was everywhere on the East Coast in Jersey. Tagia says they were babies. I watched the documentary a few years ago. Kudos to Ava for bringing it to life. Yes, she definitely did that. Kudos to her. Somebody said I was 7 or 8 when I heard about it, when Trump was running for president. Yes, Colita, they were very young. So, like I said, if you weren't in, somebody said I've never heard of them, and I'm 34. Yes, Black Obsidian. So that's what I'm saying. We can't assume that everybody knows. This is not the time to shame people or act like you're not black enough because you didn't know about the Central 5. Miss me with the bullshit, okay? This is why I respect documentaries. This is why I watch documentaries all the time, because there's things that happen when we were babies and we didn't know about it. I didn't. We probably didn't. Even, I don't know if we even had cable back then. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like it's good that people like Ava Duvernay are putting together projects like this, because not only is it schooling some of us who may have not known the details, but it's also schooling the new generation. Because I'm gonna make both of my boys watch it. So that was the main thing that shocked me, is the fact that these kids were so young. 14 through 16 years old. They were being interrogated. Half of them didn't have their parents there. The disrespect, the way that the head detective, the female detective, was calling them all types of animals. They literally rounded up all these kids because they were in Central Park, quote unquote, wilding, acting a fool, being mischievous, beating people up. But it's almost like any black kid could do. They didn't go trying to find the specific kids who were beating up the bikers. It's like, they're black, they'll do. He's Hispanic, they'll do. Now, did you guys peep during the whole, when they were doing the interrogation, did you guys peep the colorism that happened? Now, the 5 boys, let me go ahead and pull up their names here. Okay, so we have Antron McCray, Kevin Richardson, Yusef Salam, Raymond Santana, and Korey Wise. Raymond Santana was a light-skinned Puerto Rican kid, okay? So did you guys peep the colorism? How initially these kids, they didn't know each other like that. Only 2 of the boys actually knew each other. And so the police, they go to Raymond Santana and they say, oh, look at you. You're good looking, nice features. I'm sure you can get any girl you want. You don't have to be out here raping people. That's for them other kids. Insinuating that the full black, darker skinned kids were the rapists. And because he was like, the more racially ambiguous Latino kid, he needs to point the finger at them, because in the jury's mind, they'll look at the darker skinned black kids as guilty. Did you guys peep that? Okay, good. So Dorcas Watson says, yes, T, that was crazy. They were going to use Raymond to lie on the others. Thank you for the super chat, Shay. Okay, so that was one thing that was definitely disturbing. And if you guys notice, the Salam character, now he was raised Muslim, okay? Very, very dark-skinned kid. And it was very funny because they went after him right away. Remember, they picked him up and he said he lied on his ID about his age. The other boy, Korey Wise, he wasn't even at the park. He made the right decision. The kids said, we're all going to the park. We're going to go out there and go have some fun. His best friend, Yusef Salam, because he was out there, he had ditched school. He was out there on a date with his little girlfriend. He was eating some chicken. So they asked him, they said, come with us to the park. He said, nah, I'm going to stay here with my girl. So he did the right thing. He wasn't even at the park. His name was not even on the list. But being a good friend, the police officers, because you could tell he was kind of off. He wasn't all there. Mentally, you could tell he kind of had like a delay. So they asked Korey, won't you come down, with your best friend? You want to come down to the precinct with us? And of course, Yusef, he's scared. He looks at his friend like, come with me. Because again, these are babies. These are young guys. So it's like, come with me. I'm going down there by myself. It's very nerve-wracking. And Korey makes a split-second decision that literally changed the course of his entire life. It was just really sad, the stuff that went on. So let me see what you guys are saying. My heart broke for Korey. Yes. Yeah, I felt like he was definitely mentally delayed. So you guys saw that too. He couldn't read. He was going through a lot. But yeah, he was never at the park. But because he was 16, because remember, Korey said he was 16. It's like they zeroed in on him because they were trying to find 16-year-olds, because at that time, there was a lot of propaganda being put out in the news about black kids wilding, about teenagers being used for adult crime. So they were really trying to push this crime bill, and they wanted a lot of teenagers to be tried and charged as adults. So the Central 5 case was one of those cases that basically pushed that. They pushed that into the mainstream media. And they used that as a test case to start charging these violent thugs, these violent black criminals as adults. Now, please remember this, because I was talking to some people, not about this movie, we were just talking about this in general. So in 1992, there was a crime bill passed about, if teenagers do really heinous acts like murder, rape, things like that, they can be tried as adults, okay? This came about because back in the day, I was talking to somebody older who grew up in like the 80s and stuff like that during like the whole gangbang era. So what happened is that a lot of adults would have young people committing serious crimes because back then you were considered a juvenile. So if you got caught doing a drive-by, stealing a car, killing somebody, you would only do a few years in JDC, then you'd be out. So let's say the big homie has you go and do a drive-by and you get arrested, you're 14. The most you'll do is 4 years because at 18, they'll let you out. If you happen to kill somebody, you may have to be in there till you're 21. But even from the age of 21 till forever, you still have the rest of your life, right? So a lot of the big homies in these gangs and, just people in criminal activity, they were using and manipulating younger people, younger teenagers. And it's not like all these teenagers wanted to gangbang, wanted to commit crimes. Some of them were forced to do it because of the neighborhood they lived in, okay? So they were doing this. And at that point, you have 14-year-olds out here killing people, doing drive-bys. They're literally a menace to society. So they figured in order to stop that, we're going to start charging them as adults, okay? Let me see here. Thank you, Note Vegan, for the $20 super chat. I appreciate it. So I'm doing some back history for you guys here who don't understand why they were trying to hunt for 16-year-olds, okay? So at that point, back then, they wanted to start charging kids as adults, right? So recently, I want to say, oh my gosh, when did this law get reenacted? They're trying to reverse it, okay? They're trying to reverse this law from back in 1992. I want to say the new law came about in 2010. I might be wrong. But they basically said that any teenager that was convicted of a crime and charged as an adult before, like during that whole 1992 upwards to 2010, they now have to have new hearings. Okay, there's a show on A&E where they're going back. It's a new show. It just came out. I've been watching it. Where they're going back and they're revisiting cases of young people who committed. Now, these young people were guilty, who committed heinous crimes. But because they were so young and their brains weren't, fully developed, they're trying to get them new hearings. So some of these young people have literally been sitting in prison for 20, 23 years. Some of them are getting out. Some of them are being resentenced to life in prison, depending on the crime. Okay, so now you guys have the backstory to where all that's coming from. Let's see here. So with this situation, that's why they were really pushing it because of that crime bill. That's why you had Donald Trump out there saying, that these kids should receive the death penalty, because the whole mantra back then in the early 90s was trying to get these, wild young thugs, locked up and put away because they were committing heinous crimes. The problem is these 5 young boys did nothing wrong. Okay? And the scary thing is this could have been anybody. They literally just pulled, just kids that were just, picked up at the park. These kids did nothing wrong. So the part that was very, very just frustrating to me is I'm the type of person, I always try and give people the benefit of the doubt, especially when you're in a authority position. You're a detective, you're a police officer. You are sworn to certain things. You are told to uphold certain values. And it was very, very disturbing to watch that white female detective literally know that she had no case whatsoever. But she basically wanted her other detectives who were interviewing those young boys that they're going to be found guilty of this. We're going to make this stick no matter what. These kids were literally on one side of the park. The rape took place on a whole nother side of the park. And she was trying to make the shit fit. They were trying to push back the time of the rape. I mean, the stuff that they were doing was just sickening. Let me go ahead and show you guys the picture here of her and then also the detective. Was this the one? Okay, so that's her. The person who played her did a good job. I think that's the lady who did all that scamming shit. I forget her name. But that's the lead detective. There's another picture here. Let's see here. This is it. So that is the lead detective, and then the lady with the curly afro, she was the prosecutor. She was like the head lawyer prosecuting the boys. So this whole situation was just really disturbing to watch people who were supposed to be there to, stand for justice, stand for, equality, literally not do any of that. I mean, it was just so scary how they were able to railroad these boys, pressure them into coercion, have them admit to something that they did not do. Yes, Felicity Huffman. Thank you, baby. That's her name. Felicity Huffman, the one that's right now looking at time for scamming the colleges and stuff like that. She's who played the detective. So, a lot of things bother me with that situation, right? On top of how these police officers were talking to these boys, the only woman who really stood up for her child was Salam's mother when she came and was like, no, you've been talking to my son for hours. He didn't have me there. He's a minor. Like she really stood up for her son. The other parents, they try to do their best, but when you're in that situation, you don't know what to do. And I asked myself, if I was in that situation, I've never been in trouble. I'm not out here with a bunch of fucking mugshots. I'm not in and out of jail. That's not my life. And I'm proud to say that, okay? So I don't even know what I would do as a parent if I was caught down, to a station and my child is being accused of something as heinous as rape. I'd probably be freaking out, crying, not knowing what to do. I saw people saying, well, why would they admit to this? If I, got caught and they try to pin something on me, I'm not gonna fold. I'm not admitting the shit I didn't do. Well, please realize, superhuman internet people who swear up and down that they would never do anything. You know the internet, honey. Everybody's perfect. You have to realize these kids were put under a lot of duress. And when you're put under duress, you would sing like a canary too. You would confess to some shit that you didn't do too. Okay? They can only show so much in a 4-part episode. But for y'all who don't know, some of these kids were literally interrogated for upwards of 18 hours. 18 hours. Okay? Think about when you're working, okay? After 8 hours, you're ready to go the fuck home. You're tired. And you're not under duress. You're just doing your job. But you're ready to go home, relax, eat dinner, be around your kids. Imagine somebody, and you're a child, okay? You're 14, 15, 16 years old. And somebody's saying, you did this. You know you did this. You did this. And they're hitting you. They're cursing you out. They're calling you everything but a child of God. They're not believing anything that you say. You're telling them that you didn't do this. They're trying to manipulate you and tell you that you did do this. On top of that, they're not being fed. The father even said in the movie, my son has not eaten in 18 hours. Where can I go to get him something to eat? And the detective said, you figured out yourself. Those kids were not fed. They were chained to chairs. Who knows if they're allowed to use the bathroom when they needed to use the bathroom? So at that point, these kids had been put under so much, and the police are telling them, just tell us the truth and we'll let you go home. When you're 13, 14, 15, 16 years old and you're in trouble and you're dealing with the police, the only thing you want to do is go back to the safety and the comfort of your room and of your parents. So I understand why these kids confessed to something that they didn't do. Let's not get it twisted. This is not unusual. You have grown adults my age who have confessed to things that they didn't do just so they can get out of an interrogation and get back to their comfort zone. That is one of the most nerve-wracking things you can do, is go to a police station and have them interrogate you about anything. Okay? I went through something similar, not to bring up a story time, but I went, okay, so they weren't allowed to take bathroom breaks. I figured as much. Some people said it was upwards of 48 hours. Yeah. Imagine somebody just, pounding it into your brain that you did this, and the only way that we'll let you go home is for you to admit this. But I remember I ended up getting a visit. What happened is that this was a long time ago. I was like 18 at the time, 17, 18, and somebody I knew had gotten killed. Okay? He had gotten killed, and I didn't know. I was calling him because he was supposed to go on vacation and come back. And it still fucks with me to this day. I was calling him to check on him, see how his vacation went. And I was calling him, and he had been murdered. And so our phone number was coming up in his phone. So the police traced it back. I get a visit, and they tell me to come down to homicide. Mind you, I'm 17. Do you know how fucking scared I was? I'm like, I didn't kill anybody, and why am I going to homicide? Like, it's the scariest thing, and I end up going down there and having to like sit and talk to detectives for like 2-3 hours. Why were you calling him? Do you know who did this? Do you know what? It's like the freakiest, scariest thing, you guys. They end up letting me go because I had nothing to do with it. You know what I'm saying? But until you're in that situation, don't be so quick to judge, But it's really scary, especially when you're a teenager and you're having to talk to police about anything, let alone a rape that they're accusing you of. I know how scared I was, and all they wanted to know is if I knew anything, to help solve the murder of somebody who was killed. So it's really just it's not a good feeling. It's like the worst. And like I said, I was there talking to them like 2-3 hours, just trying to explain my relationship with that person, how I met them, because they want the whole breakdown. So it's a very nerve-wracking thing to have to go through as a young person. Let me see here. Yeah, it was definitely sickening. It was really, really sad. And it takes a lot. So even for me, when I went down way back then to go talk to homicide, and I remember being this scared teenager, and like I said, I had nothing to do with anything. But it was still nerve-wracking having to go down to the police station and talk to them, and everything else, and it was just nerve-wracking. So I could imagine how these kids felt at that age, and they're being accused of something. I wasn't even being accused. They were just trying to see, was I a witness? Did I know anything? These kids were being told, you did this. You know what I'm saying? And so they knew what they were doing when they manipulated those kids into basically, confessing. None of the stories match. Half the kids didn't even know each other. It was just that whole situation was just heartbreaking to watch that. And then by the time the parents are contacted, they come, they're ready to sign their kids off to go back home. And you're thinking, okay, I'm signing my child out. Now everything's all good. And you find out it's not. Because now they're coming back for your child because now your child has been charged. So what people need to realize, let me see here. Okay, what's up? Nana, I'm glad you made it. My YouTube is still freezing. I'm trying to read these comments. I'm getting super chats. Let's see here. Mary Shanice says, the sad thing is it is still happening in today's society. Black and brown parents literally had to prepare their children for this kind of thing. Thank you for the super chat, and you're saying nothing but the truth. That's facts. And while we're on the subject of preparing their children, if you find yourself in an interrogation, I don't care if you're a kid or if you're an adult, never admit to anything that you did not do if they tell you can go home. If they say, just admit to this, we'll let you go home. That is the oldest trick in the book because they know for the most part, a lot of kids and hell, a lot of adults, they just want to go home. So if I can go home and tell you anything, I'm going to do that. But what they're not realizing is that them supposedly confessing and telling them what they want to hear just means that, yeah, they're going to let you go home, but they will definitely be back in a few weeks to come rearrest you. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. Let me see here. Let me read this super chat. This chat is moving so much slower than my OBS. I just cannot stand YouTube. Magnetic Source says, I have not watched it yet. I will this weekend. This is a very sad situation. Thank you so much for the super chat. Yes, it's very sad. It's very sad. Let's see. At this point, black people are stuck in the matrix. I'm starting to believe that black people never really will make it in this world. T, but spending the rest of your life in prison for something you did not do is more than nerve-wracking. Educate, educate, educate. Exactly. Exactly. And that's why you have to talk to your kids. That's why we have to be open and honest about this, especially if you're raising children of color. Because again, the parents didn't know their rights. You know, the one mother showed up like the next day after her son had been at the, police precinct for 24 hours. So it's like a lot of us don't know the laws. We don't know what to tell our children, but it's very scary that somebody can literally just say your child did something and we're taking your child away from you. So now in part 3, we see where they're going to trial. And I think for me, I was like, thank you, JD. I'm glad you're liking the conversation. I think for me, I had almost forgot that the kids, by the time part 3 came on, I literally had forgot that these kids were found guilty because it was so much evidence that proved that these kids had not done anything wrong. So I'm watching all of this. They're sitting here. They found a sock. The sock was tested for DNA. It didn't match any of these kids. Then they try to spin and say, well, they might have been a sixth suspect. Okay, well, we're not going to go looking for a sixth suspect when you guys claimed it was these 5 people. Well, then we'll just try and pin it on one of them. I mean, their case was so circumstantial. It was so full of holes. It was sickening. So I'm watching this thinking, okay, they have no case. This case is bullshit. Even the victim, what is her name? Trisha Emily, who was the blogger, even the victim, she said that she couldn't really remember anything. She didn't remember, what boys did it. And then they brought the one father in there, the one that played on The Wire. They brought him in there, and he was basically talking about how he told his son to confess because he just wanted, to take his son home. And that man was riddled with so much guilt that it ended up literally stressing his body out, that he later on died in part 4. But I know he was riddled with guilt because he told his son to admit to something that he did not do. So I'm watching all of this and I'm sitting here like, I just don't understand like how this is able to go on. I don't understand how they're just trying to prosecute these kids and there's so many holes. Like the story just does not fit. And so I'm thinking they'll be found not guilty. Because I had totally forgot, the whole premise of the show. Because I'm so focused on the evidence. I'm like, they literally have no evidence. There's no way they can find these kids guilty. So I done forgot about the whole, Central Park 5 and the whole backstory. That's how much I was into this show. And when they said guilty, I was like, wait, what? Wait, what do you mean they're guilty? And then I realized that's the whole damn point. Girl, what you doing? That's the whole point. They were found guilty, okay? But that's just how much bullshit evidence that they had. They had nothing, no DNA, no physical evidence. Even like the police officers who were interrogating these kids had to admit on the stand that the kids were nowhere near the rape scene. So it was just insane that this case still went through. Y'all, when I tell you, I was just so frustrated watching this, okay? So now, they had tried the 3 boys together. Then the last 2, which was Korey Wise, and I forgot who else was tried with Korey. But he had a separate trial as well. And you could just tell, Korey was nervous. He was slow. They were trying to get him to read stuff off the paper. He's like, I can't read. That's why I wasn't going to school. because he felt like, he didn't want to go to school and get made fun of and be seen as dumb. But he really couldn't read. So a kid who couldn't read, y'all had him sign a deposition? That just doesn't make any sense. So he's signing something, but he doesn't even know what he's signing because he can't read. That right there should have been enough to make the judge and the jury wake up like there's something not right here. So anyways, they end up finding Korey guilty. Let's see here. Jay McCullough says we need to educate our youth of color about their rights and their Miranda rights. Always have an attorney present. Yep, that is very, very true. Mel Cross says, let me see here. Thank you for the super chat, Jay McCullough. I'm trying to read these other ones. Oh, is my stream still going? So Mel Cross says, there's another documentary called Murder on Sunday Morning. Features a 15-year-old teen. Okay, let me check something out. Am I still live? Because my stream is gone. Let me see. Okay, looks like it's coming back. Okay, so y'all can see me? Okay, good. Okay, looks like it's coming back in the green. Like I said, I don't know what's going on with YouTube. We have close to 3,000 people in here. It's freezing up, but I'm just going to keep going. So anyways, they end up finding these boys guilty, but this is the messed up part, okay? Because like I said, I didn't know anything about this case fully, so I'm watching this, learning. So they find the boys guilty. The other 4 boys who were under the age of 16 were all sent to a juvenile detention center, or like a juvenile jail. So basically, those boys did anywhere from 4 to 6 years, which is messed up because, again, they were babies. So you're sitting here looking at your child who's 14, 15, 16, and they're literally, going through puberty and finishing the rest of their childhood behind prison or jail doors, and they weren't even guilty. So imagine your child goes in as this 14-year-old kid and comes out at the age of 18, 19, 20. Then the final episode focuses on Korey Wise, and I think his story was the saddest. Korey Wise was abused. First of all, they sent him to an adult prison, okay? So they sent him to an adult prison. So he got more time than the rest, because remember what I was just saying prior. They were looking to charge kids as adults because that crime bill was put into place. So he got sent to an adult prison. Even though he was the one who was not at the park, he was not on the initial, police search when they were looking for people. His best friend Yusef was. Yusef goes to a juvenile center because he was 15. Korey goes to adult prison at the age of 16. He's taken advantage of. He's beat up by not only the guards, he's beat up by other inmates. And then put a teacup in the chat if that white guard, when he first went to that prison, creeped the hell out of you. Remember, he kept saying, let me know if you can do me a favor. I'm like, what the fuck? What do you mean, let him know if he can do you a favor? Like, what the fuck you trying to say, B? Like, I was so creeped out by him. He's one of those people who is probably weak as hell in high school. He's probably a punk, getting beat up. And now that he has some power, he's going to use that power, to sexually assault and abuse young inmates. It was so creepy watching that whole scene. Okay, so y'all got the same. I see the teacups on my OBS. So y'all got the same vibes. I was so creeped out. He kept saying it through the whole thing. Let me know if you can do me a favor. What kind of favor? You want this kid to come suck you off? Like this is sickening. He was not only getting abused by other prisoners, which I can see happening because these people are in there for anywhere from, a few years to life, so they don't give a fuck. But for the guards to be also sexually abusing this kid. And from what Ava Duvernay said, what we saw on the documentary, that was just the icing on the cake, boo. They said the abuse that Korey Wise faced was even worse than what we saw in the documentary. They couldn't put it in there because it would have been too much, too graphic. Imagine being 16 years old, you're mentally delayed, you have issues already, and they put you in an adult prison with wolves, with stone cold killers, real rapists, and he's just meant to survive. He was getting his ass whooped. He got stabbed, almost died. It was insane. The only good sheriff, the only good guard that helped him was the one white guard. When he had put him for a transfer and they ended up sending him further up north away from his mother in Harlem. That one white guard really helped him out. And then he put him for another transfer, hoping he could get back down closer to Harlem, and they sent him out even further. And then you had a black guard abusing him. The stuff that he went through just broke my heart. It really did. Let me see here. Esperanza Ochoa. Sorry if I mispronounced it. They say, I love your channel. Thank you so much. And thanks for the super chat. Yeah, it was really crazy. It wasn't, there was a lot of, a lot of racial stuff. But let's not act like it was just white folks abusing Korey Wise. Because that black guard, I was so shocked by his behavior. He said, I don't care. You're not going to be a superstar in my prison. And he started beating his hands so he could take his hands off the prison bars while the other inmates beat him up and rape him. That was a black guard who allowed that to happen. The only guard who had his back, who treated him like a human being, was the one white guard when he went to the second prison. So this kid was abused so severely, it's sad. And let me see here. Let me just show y'all some pictures. Shout out to the young man who played Korey. His name is Jarrell Jerome. He played the hell out that role. The fact that they used him from the time he was 16 into the adult, until he turned into an adult, he played the hell out that role. He moved me. I was up in my bed at like 3 a.m. just boo-hoo crying, upset by the way he was being treated. That was the prison scene here where he's crying, and he had been abused so much. He's like, I don't even know if I can trust this guard. Why are you looking out for me? Why are you bringing me things to read? And he's like, if I had a son who was in here, who was going through what you've been going through, I would hope and pray that there be somebody here to protect my son and look out for him. And that white guard did that. It was really sad, the stuff he went through. Now, this is Korey Wise now. This is the real Korey Wise. So what he's doing now, he's the only one out of all of them. The rest, they bounced to Atlanta. All the other guys live in Atlanta. They got the hell up out of New York, and I don't blame them. Korey Wise is working with the Innocence Project in New York. So that's what he's busy doing. The whole situation was just really, really crazy. It was just so disturbing to watch. It was just really sad. But I think what got me, because I kept thinking like, okay, we see him getting older, but I didn't know how long he had been in prison. And I remember when the first group of guys got out, Raymond Santana, Yusef, and the other fella, let me see, I got their names written down, Kevin Richardson and Antron McCrae. I remember when they first got out, they had shown CDs. Okay, they were CDs. Somebody was selling CDs in the background, right? So you saw Crazy, Sexy, Cool. You saw Strictly for My Niggas, which was by Tupac. So I'm like, damn, they was in there at least a good few years, because those CDs came out in like, 95? And they literally went, they went in the 1990. So now I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, what happened to Korey? Because everybody else is out now and they're trying to, get back into society and, get their lives back on track. So the whole time during the third episode, you're like, well, where's Korey? Where's Korey? Nobody has seen him. Nobody had heard from him. And then we find out everything he's going through in episode 4. But I think the part, let me know if this bothered you guys, if this shocked you, or maybe I'm alone. Put a teacup if you were shocked when 9/11 happened and Korey was in front of the TV. Put a teacup in the chat. When I seen that, I'm like, he was in there during 9/11? What the fuck? How long did they have this young boy in prison? Like, I was blown away. He was literally watching the whole 9/11 situation in prison. He had been locked up since the 90s. Okay, so you guys were shocked. Okay, I see nothing but teacups. I was blown away. Because I'm like, okay, good. So I'm not the only one. Everybody says I'm shocked. I was like, damn, what the hell? Do y'all know that young boy, everybody else who was charged as a juvenile, they got out within 5 to 6 years. Korey did 14 years in prison. 14 years. Let that sink in. He went in at the age of 16. And he literally did just as many years in prison as when he was out free. They gave him more time, almost the same as his age. How do you get back 14 years of your life and not be bitter and not want to kill somebody and not want to be that person that they claim that you were when you weren't? The fact that he's still sane and he's trying to help people and help other convicted people who are wrongfully accused, it says a lot about him. It says a lot about his spirit. It says a lot about his demeanor. It says a lot about Korey Wise. I was shook when I seen him watching the planes hit the tower. Both towers on 9/11. I was shook. And that's when I realized this kid has been sitting here for 14 years for a crime that he did not commit. Whew. Got a super chat from Jersey Girl. She says a lot of people built their career off of this case, and the United States government uses enhanced interrogation, torture to get fake confessions. That is very true. A lot of them built their careers off of this case. Let me go back to talking about, I wrote a bunch of notes here. Linda Fairstein, her legal career, she blew up after this case. Okay? Her, the detective, they all blew up off of this case, which to me is just insane. The detective later on started writing books. Was this the one? Let me see. Her. She started writing all types of books, making money off of this case, even after it was proven that these boys did nothing wrong. But okay, let me talk about some other stuff. And y'all might think I'm victim shaming, and that's fine. Y'all know I don't give a fuck. Y'all think what y'all want to think. The part that really bothered me as well. Now, my heart goes out to the woman for what she went through. The woman who was beat up, raped, and assaulted. The jogger, name is Trisha Melly. But I'm trying to figure this out. Somebody make this shit make sense. So after, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back real quick. Korey ends up really meeting that guy, okay? So what happens is that Korey and the guy, they get into a fight before I talk about the jogger. So while Korey's in prison after 9/11, at one point in time when he's at the second prison, he ends up getting into a fight with a guy who wanted him to turn the TV down. Korey was cleaning. He wanted to turn it up so he could listen to the music, and they got into a fight, okay? Later on, he gets transferred to the third prison where he's abused and beat up and everything else. The guy who had fought at the second prison, he gets transferred to the third prison as well. At that point, he comes up to Korey and he says that he's been saved. He's found Jesus Christ and that he needs to get something off of his heart and off of his chest. He then goes and admits to the rape and the assault of that jogger in Central Park. Okay? That man, let me get his name here. Let me get his name. Give me a moment. His name was Mateus Reyes. So they really met in prison. That wasn't scripted. That wasn't fake. So Mateus Reyes, he basically went and he admitted to everything. And so what ended up happening is, even when he admitted to it, they still were trying to chalk it up to, oh, he just wants attention. People, confess to crimes all the time that they didn't do. And I found that really ironic that that was the police's attitude, because you guys made these same young boys confess to a crime that they didn't do. But that didn't matter. But now that somebody's confessing to a crime that they did do, y'all are trying to chalk it up as bullshit. How does that work? So anyways, they end up testing his DNA, and his DNA matched the sock that they found out there that night that she was raped. So DNA evidence tied him to the rape of the Central Park jogger, okay? He admitted to it. The reason why he admitted to it is because he himself had killed somebody and raped somebody, and he was in prison for life. So had they done their due diligence the first time, maybe the person who was raped and killed, okay, because the dude was a serial rapist, it may have never happened. Had they done their due diligence as opposed to blaming 5 innocent young teens. Right? So now, let me see here. We got a super chat. Melanin Queen, what's up, sis? Thank you for the super chat. She says, T, don't forget, DT took out a full page article, 4 of them, in the paper calling for the execution of these boys, knew of the innocence, and still has not apologized. Yes, Melanin Queen, you are correct. We talked about that earlier. He was the one really pushing that whole super predator, wanting them to have the death penalty and everything else. And what I find crazy is that even till this day, he's still standing by that stance. The Shade Room posted some old tweets that they found from Donald Trump back in 2013, where he was talking about those kids and saying that he stood by everything he said, and that, they should have been executed, and that they were criminals. And somebody was replying back to him. They're like, but Donald, they were found they were found innocent. The real, rapist was found by DNA. And he said, no, I don't believe it. I'm not buying it. So till this day, he still believes that those young men were guilty. So, this whole situation just has me just emotional and upset, okay? Zena says, yes, who would have known that he would have crossed paths with the actual murderer? Yes, thank you for the super chat. Yeah, so that was not a part of the, whatchamacallit, it wasn't staged. He really ran across the real killer. And the real killer felt bad once he met this boy and seen that he was kind of delayed, and this boy's doing all this time. And it finally something tugged in his spirit for him to tell the truth. So imagine if the serial killer hadn't found God. Or let's just say he just didn't give a fuck. Like, oh, well, I'm doing life. He's just going to have to do his time with me. What's the point of me even, confessing to it? Imagine if he just chose to just keep it under wraps. That boy would probably still be in prison till this day. Or would have at least done 20, 25 years. Those other boys would have still been looked at as, these criminals, these super predators, even though they did nothing wrong. So thank goodness he found Jesus and decided to admit to his crimes. And what if he hadn't? So now let's talk about the jogger, okay? So I wanted to put that out there. Let's talk about the jogger. And like I said, I've been on here about an hour. So this is not to victim shame, because y'all know y'all love that word. TB victim shaming, whatever, honey. What I find funny about the jogger is this, and I'm not saying she's not a victim, because she definitely was beaten. She was, physically assaulted. She lost her sense of smell. She went through a lot of shit. Okay, so she's definitely a victim. But what I find funny is that when it came for them to sue the city of New York, because they sued, and New York City had to pay one of the biggest lawsuits ever in the history of New York. They paid over $41 million to the 5 boys, right? She then started speaking out. She got mad. Her, the DA, the prosecutors, they were upset. They felt that these boys didn't deserve that money. So what I find funny is that this bitch couldn't remember anything from that night, okay? She didn't know if they had did something to her, if they didn't. But all of a sudden, when it came to them getting a check, all of a sudden her memory is coming back, And she feels like, they may have had something to do with this, so they shouldn't get no money. Well, like, where did they find this victim from? And I don't understand, like, how can you, like, and like I said, she's a victim. But what I don't understand is they are also victims. So to me, your anger should be towards the criminal justice system because you did not find justice until another person confessed to raping and beating you half to death. Okay? The criminal justice system dropped the ball in your case. So your anger should be towards them, not the boys getting money. They did time in prison, you know what I'm saying, because they were supposedly the perpetrators of your crime, okay? They did time in prison for something that they did not do. And you're mad at them for suing the state of New York? Like, that pissed me off when I heard about that. I'm like, how dare you? You guys were all victims. If anything, you should stand alongside those young black boys who did time, who lost their childhood behind you. And it's through no fault of this woman's, it's through no fault of her own. It's not like she accused them. It's not an Emmett Till situation where she lied. So I'm not blaming her for that. But her actions after the fact, I'm not feeling that shit. And if that makes me a victim shamer, then y'all kiss my ass. I'll be a victim shamer. Yes, Sylvester, that's exactly what it was. She wanted the money for herself. And that's fine. But then you sue the city of New York for dropping the ball on your case. I would have respected her doing that, saying, you know what? Y'all put these young boys in prison. They didn't do nothing wrong. Y'all are just now finding my rapist. I'm suing y'all because I'm having to go through the whole rape again. I'm having to go through the turmoil again. Why didn't she just do that? Why hate on them getting a bag? That boy spent 14 years in prison for a crime that he did not commit. He wasn't even at the park. They deserve all that and more. So I'm not feeling her actions after the fact. And that's just me being real. Pink T says, you're right, T. No one is calling you a victim shamer. You know they call me everything but a child of God. But I'm just letting them know, y'all call me what the fuck you want to call me. I stand by everything I say in this video. I'm not okay with that, period. So Kamisha says, stop blaming her, T. You're wrong. What the fuck is wrong with you? No, bitch, what the fuck is wrong with you? If you don't like what I'm saying, get the fuck out my chat, bitch. Okay? How about that? I said what the fuck I said, bitch. The victim is wrong in this case. She should have stood next to those young boys who did 6 to 14 years in prison for a crime that they did not commit. Don't come out speaking talking about they shouldn't get no money when they didn't drop the ball. So like I said, bitch, I said what I said. Don't like it, get the fuck out. Period. Blockiana. Y'all know y'all like to hear me snap. So yeah, I wasn't feeling that. That doesn't take away from what she went through. But the fact that she has not stood next to them, there's been no apologies, saying I'm sorry for what you guys went through. And not saying that it's any fault of her own because she didn't finger them and say that they did it. But again, they went to prison behind her. A lot of people blew up off of this case who really should have been in prison. Once it came out that those boys were not guilty, everyone who stood there in that court of law and lied, who coerced them, they all should have went to jail, period. They should not been able to have made money off of, the backs of these 5 young boys, period. Let me see here. These super chats are disappearing. Sorry if I missed it. Thank you, Nessa, for the $9.99. There's a bunch of super chats. I'm sorry if I missed them. Y'all know I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to keep the same energy. I don't play that shit. Don't say what the fuck is wrong with me, bitch. What the fuck is wrong with you? Yes, throw the whole injustice system away. Thank you. So I'm not feeling that. But now peep this. So a lot of people are like, okay, well, they got money. What's the big deal? They walked away with $41 million. They really didn't. The $41 million, first of all, right off the top, taxes. Second of all, they also had to pay the lawyers who fought to get them that money. Then they had to split it between 5 ways. So for what I'm hearing, they only got like a few, when everything is said and done, they only got a few $1,000,000. It's not like each person got 41 million. They're not living that trife life. They're not, balling on Instagram. The money's basically gone. So the money, and to me, the money means nothing. You can't get back 14 years of your life. You cannot get back your childhood. Think about all the memories you created when you were in junior high and high school. My son just graduated. All the memories he's created over the past 4 years. These kids didn't get that. So my sympathy will always be with these boys, first and foremost. They didn't get that. And that's not okay. No amount of money will ever, ever fix that issue. I mean, it's insane. Yes, it's pennies. Big Mesh said it's pennies. Time is priceless. It doesn't equal the time that they spent. It hurts more because honestly, it happened for nothing. Go the fuck off, auntie. The amounts were based on the time each spent in jail and split. Yeah, it's the truth. Money cannot do anything. It cannot replace that time. So for people to be mad, for the victim to be mad that they were getting money when they themselves were also victims is bullshit. And especially when they didn't just, walk off with 41 million apiece. They didn't walk off with that. So let me see. There was something else I wanted to talk about here. Let me make sure I think I covered everything. And then I wanted to play you guys a quick video here. YouTube is still acting crazy. So I'm just going to look at my OBS. I wish I could slow down my chat in my OBS, but I can't. So let's see here. Special case says, no, you cannot get those times back. That would have been better. On the Vlad interview, they said that they didn't even get that much money. Yeah, they got some, but yeah, that money went fast. So it's not even like they really got a chance to enjoy the money or really do something with the money. And most of them are working on, they're like working with organizations to help people who are wrongfully convicted. Because what people don't realize is that this happens more times than not. And one thing I was talking about today to my mom, we're talking about this. And so basically, think about like Hollywood movies. We've almost been conditioned to think that people who are in jail are in there and they're guilty. One of my favorite movies is The Shawshank Redemption. It comes on every fucking day, honey. On like PBS, not PBS, TBS or, A&E. I don't know. Shawshank Redemption is always on TV, okay? So I try to watch it anytime, any chance I get. So anyways, remember that scene in Shawshank Redemption when they're talking and, the lawyer, he was a rich lawyer. He was innocent. He did not kill his wife and her lover. So remember when he came into the prison, he's telling everybody that he's innocent. And the prisoners are like, oh, everybody's in here, is innocent. Ask Ray. Ray, what did you do? I ain't do nothing. I'm innocent. Ask Smith. What did you do? I didn't do nothing. I'm innocent. So it's almost like we've been conditioned, through movies and other things to think that everybody who's in jail or goes to prison is guilty. If you're there, you're guilty. And for a long time, that's what I used to think. Like, okay, well, shit, if you're in prison or you're in jail, obviously you did something to get there. So out of sight, out of mind, right? Because you want to have faith in the criminal justice system. But the older I get and the more stuff I learn and read about, I realize that it's more of an injustice system than it is a justice system. And that, there's so much work that needs to be done. A few years ago, we had the Kalief Browder situation. And look how much of a toll that took on Kalief Browder that he ended up taking his own life. So it's really real. He ended up doing 3 years in Rikers Island for a backpack. A backpack. And it's very easy to say. And if you guys have not watched the documentary Time by Jay-Z, it's about the Khalif Browder situation. That's another really good documentary. It's also on Netflix. I loved it. I loved it. I've been on top of the Khalif Browder stories since it first broke in like 2015. I was one of the first YouTubers to talk about it and stay on that story. And that story is just so heartbreaking. That is another young man who lost his childhood. And for what? Never got to go to prom. Didn't get a chance to graduate. Didn't get all the, just the things that you go through in childhood from being a child to a teenager to an adult. So we have to remember that. Everybody who goes to prison, who goes to jail is not necessarily guilty. Some people are simply in prison because they cannot afford to bail out. And it's very easy to say, well, why don't, how can somebody just not have $2,000, $3,000 or, why don't, people pool money together? But you got to realize if you just don't have it, you don't have it. If you don't have family, if you don't have somebody to turn to, you just don't have it. And I've been in that situation where I just did not have any money. As much as I needed it and wanted to work, I just didn't have anything. You just have enough to pay your bills. You just have enough to just keep a roof over your head. But there's nothing extra. So if I would have went to jail or somebody, one of my loved ones would have went to jail, I wouldn't have had no money to bail them out either. And those are the realities of people's situations. So yeah, we're talking about some really deep stuff tonight. Let's see here. Talk about Raymond's stepmom. I wasn't feeling the stepmama. I didn't like the stepmom at all. She was a bitch, okay? I felt like, I don't know, it was just some type of weird tension. I don't know if she was attracted to Raymond, because Raymond, the person who played Raymond, he looked good, okay? So I don't know if there was some type of sexual tension, because she got a little bit too mad when he bought his girlfriend over. And it's like, why are you so pressed? Like, so he's a grown-ass man. Let him get some. He been in there for damn 6 years. Shit. I didn't like the stepmom at all. So El Simone, thank you for the super chat. She says karma is coming for all involved in ruining their lives. Yes, it is. Somebody else said, yes, T. I thought about the Khalif Browder story as well. Rest in peace to Khalif. Yeah, Khalif Browder's, his mind was gone. It was gone by the end of it. When you go through that and you're sitting in isolation, like you guys even saw in that documentary about the boys, the Korey Wise part, when he was in isolation, they had to put him in solitary confinement for his safety because he was getting beat up constantly getting beat up, constantly getting raped. And I think the reason why these guys kept raping him is because they really thought he raped that white woman. Because remember, first it was the black dudes who raped him. Then when he went to the other prison, it was the damn Nazi KKK skinheads who were raping him. I mean, it's like wherever he went, he was getting raped because, again, everybody thought he had did the rape towards that woman. And he didn't. How do you bounce back from that? How can you not have sympathy for that? I don't get it. Vicky says he lived a few blocks away from me too. Is that my girl Vicky from the Bronx? Let me find out that's Vicky. What's up, Vicky? If that's you. What about Yusef's mom? I think Yusef's mom, I didn't like the way she acted funny towards the other boy's mom, towards Korey Wise's mother. I didn't like that. I felt Yusef's mom kind of thought that she was better than the rest of them. Maybe because she was, part of the nation. I don't know. But this young man literally did time because of your son. He wasn't at the park. He went down there with your son to basically be a witness to make sure your son was okay. And Yusef's mom just kept shitting on Korey and Korey's mother. It's like she felt she was better than them. And when Korey's mother was begging, like, can you just tell your son to write him? I'll sneak the letter in. She was like, I'm not about to do all that. And I could kind of see that part because she didn't want to fuck up her son's chance. But the way she was treating them was crazy. Now, she got her church and she got the nation to basically come up with money to get Yusef out on bail. So Yusef didn't have to sit in jail the whole time they were going through trial, okay? So they were able to come up with money for Yusef to be out on bail. The thing that bothered me is, why didn't you come up with the same money to have Korey out on bail as well? Being that he was even more innocent than your own child. Your child was actually at the park. Korey had nothing to do with anything. And you could tell Yusef felt so bad. He felt so guilty. And the mom kept talking like, you need to worry about yourself. You can't worry about the other ones. We need to focus on you. Even when Yusef went to the juvie jail, he stopped talking to the other little boy, the little young one who had the shiner. He stopped dealing with him. He just hung out with the dudes from the nation. So I thought that was kind of shady. I did. I thought that was kind of shady. Yusef kept telling his mama Korey was locked up because he was looking out for him. Exactly. I just felt like the mother thought she was a little bit better than the other moms. And I didn't respect that at all. So let's see here. Is my screen frozen on y'all's end? Because on my end, it's like freezing up. T, what was your reaction to the case when it happened? Well, my whole reaction is this video. I didn't care for Yusuf's mom, the way she treated Korey's mom. Okay. El Renee sent a super chat. Let me see here. See if I can scroll up and read it. Chase the Champ says, I love how classy and real you are. You're a glam. Thank you. You know, sometimes I gotta get ratchet because I don't play that shit. But I always try and keep it classy, but don't, you know what I'm saying? Don't come for me because I'm gonna bring you the same energy you bring me. But let's see here. El Renee says they still force adults to take plea deals to get shorter sentences, even when they didn't do it. They delay their trials when they don't take it and make bail hard to pay for low-income families. Yes, they do. And thank you for that super chat. And yes, that's something just great that you just wrote. One thing I learned in the Time documentary, they want you, they push plea deals. That's their whole thing. You're being accused of this, regardless if you did it or not. You're better off, you know what I'm saying, taking these 3 years, because if you take it to trial, you might face 20. And for the average person, they're like, well, damn, I've been sitting in this jail for the past 6 months. I can't bail out. What's another 3 years compared to me taking it to trial? And they give me 20 years. But what I learned in the Time documentary, they said, in the United States, with as many people as who are locked up, if they were literally to take every single court case to trial, the courts would be flooded for like the next 100 years. They don't have enough manpower to take everybody's individual case to trial. So when they say when they have laws that say, you know, you're guaranteed a speedy trial, it's bullshit. You're not. They want you to plead out because they just can't. They don't have the manpower to go through all of these court cases and really investigate them thoroughly. So that's why they're always pushing for people to just take plea bargains. So even if you're innocent and you want to go to trial because you didn't do the crime that they're saying that you did, like in the Khalif Browder case, it's cheaper and it just makes more sense to keep pushing that plea and keep pushing that trial date further and further away, so that way eventually you'll plead out. It's a really sick system, and it's a system that needs to be revamped. And I'm glad that all these documentaries are being put out there, and that a lot of us are learning things that we may have not known due to these documentaries. So let's see here. Got another super chat. Killer Dolly says, first off, that was not the stepmom's house. It was Raymond's grandma's house. Yeah, it was not. I'm assuming Raymond's grandmother died because it's like once he got home, the grandmother was gone. So I'm assuming she had passed away. But she took that really hard. You know, that whole situation was sad with the grandmother. And I know she felt really guilty because she was there with him when he was being interrogated, but she didn't really know English. So there was really no way she could help him, you know? So that was sad. Yeah, the nation did look out for them. Yeah, the nation definitely looked out for Yusuf's mother. Let's see here. That lady Dre says speedy by courts definition is definition, not layman's. T, I'd like to inbox you privately. What works best for you? DMs or emails? Yes, Korey's brother died. Yeah, that was sad too. That whole situation with Korey's brother and him being transgender and stuff. I thought that was very interesting. That was a very interesting dynamic. A lot of these people, what was his name? Antron McCray. His father died. His father literally went crazy, got really sick, and Antron was very angry at his father because he felt like his father's the one who made him, admit to something that he didn't do. So he was very angry. And look at all that time that they lost being father and son because of this situation. And what's even more heartbreaking is that none of the family members were compensated. They didn't get any money. The parents should have also got some type of settlement from the city. There should have been one for the boys, and there should have been some for the parents. It shouldn't have been a split between all these people and all these families. The parents should have definitely got something because their children were snatched from them and their kids weren't guilty. Whole situation is just sick. So I've been out here now for an hour and 15 minutes. I don't want this live stream to go too long. Yeah, ISIS did the damn thing. ISIS did. I liked it, ISIS in that role. Let's see. I'm just trying to read some of these chats because my YouTube is just freezing up. So I'm trying to read some of the stuff in OBS. Yes, the mental and financial distress. Yeah, a lot of that is a lot of that stuff is enough to basically take a toll on anybody. I don't care how mentally strong you are. You never know what you'll do until you're in that situation where your child is gone and there's literally nothing you can do about it. Nothing at all. So that whole situation was very disturbing. C. Agden says, we must never forget. We must tell our own story. And that's the one thing I really respect about Ava Duvernay is that as a woman, she's taking her power as a director and telling stories that a lot of people are very uncomfortable telling and directing. And what was so crazy, okay, I will say one happy moment, and shout out to my homegirl if you're watching, Rosa. The only thing happy for me in this whole movie, and I ended up DMing her, I saw my homegirl in the film. That was the only happy thing. She was one of the guardians or whatever, like the guardian angels from the 80s. They were like running all over New York, protecting the boroughs and stuff. So she was one of the guardian angels, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there goes my homegirl, because she moved to New York, and I didn't even realize she had moved to New York. So I DM'd her today. I said, girl, I see you. And so she said that she finally got a chance to watch it, but she was just so sad and overwhelmed. But she said she met Ava, and Ava came and spoke to her. And they had a really good conversation because my homegirl's also director. She does her own, film projects and stuff like that. And I've known her since she was living in LA. So she said Ava was just a sweetheart. She treated everybody on set with respect. All the background people, the people who were there, with the picket signs, who were marching. She treated them and shot them and filmed them and brought them to the forefront, made sure that these background actors and actresses were just as important and were an intricate part of the story as the main characters. So Ava DuVernay is definitely just a dope director, so she was really happy. She just gave me some, little inside tea. But that's the only thing that made me happy is when I see my homegirl. I had to pause and then rewind. But everything else made me sad. Everything else made me sad. I was really, really bothered. That was something that I just, like a lot of times when you watch a documentary or a film, you feel like you have closure. You feel like, okay, cool, I learned something, or that was really nice. I didn't feel that way. Like, I just felt like there was no closure for me, and I was really upset this morning. I'm glad I finally went to sleep, but I was really upset, watching what I saw, because it was just so much evidence that these boys didn't do that. And now that same detective is lying and saying that, this whole documentary was full of a bunch of half-truths, and it's not fair that they're being blamed for something behind this documentary. So now they're starting to speak out, and I'm not buying none of that bullshit that these detectives and all these other people are now coming and talking about. They're only trying to distance themselves and be in their feelings now, because now their livelihood is in jeopardy, because she recently had to retire from her position because of all the backlash. So people are definitely putting their foot on a lot of these people involved in prosecuting these young men. They're putting their foots on their necks, and now they're upset and feeling some type of way. Let's see here. So let me go ahead before I leave. I want to play you guys this quick video. The boys recently, well, they're not boys anymore, excuse me. They're grown men. They recently did an interview on NBC with Ava Duvernay, and they're speaking on things and speaking on what they went through. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for you guys. So y'all go ahead and check this out real quick here.
The men known as the Central Park Five and director Ava Duvernay
I've never seen that five of you.
reconnecting in New York at the end of an emotional journey. Together, turning a real story of stolen youth and wrongful conviction into a dramatic Netflix series called When They See Us.
They saw you rape the lady.
I didn't see a lady or hit anyone.
I didn't see any lady.
Kevin.
I didn't see any lady.
Explain the title.
I really became allergic to the idea of calling it Central Park 5. They were given this name by the press, by political forces, and it really takes away their personal power. When they see us, it humanizes them.
Tron, these police will mess us up. They not playing. They not.
Before a white female jogger was beaten and raped in New York Central Park in 1989, they were just 5 teenagers from Harlem. Yusef Salam, Antron McCrae, Kevin Richardson, Korey Wise, and Raymond Santana. But soon after the horrific crime, they were arrested and quickly branded the Central Park Five.
This whole process was surreal, just to see like our life story portrayed and to still be relevant 30 years later.
Is my mom here?
It's just us. You and us.
Convicted on what they always maintained were coerced confessions, each was sentenced to years behind bars.
Korey, what was it like for you to watch those scenes of your incarceration? Was it difficult?
It was. Still is, but it was.
Their convictions were vacated in 2002 after another man confessed to the attack. His DNA a match. The Central Park Five were awarded $41 million in a settlement with the city of New York.
We didn't get an apology, all the time we did for something we didn't do, and it hurts.
We have this indelible scar of, oh, that's, Kevin Richardson, the guy from the Central Park jogger case.
The Wilding case.
The Wilding case.
So nothing makes that right.
Nothing. And it's 30 years later, and we are the proof that when you damage kids as young as 14, 15, and 16 years old for a period of 14 and a half years, right, and beyond, how do you fix that?
Their story, now a passion project for this celebrated director.
So I really wanted to show how one comes out dealing with kind of being half a citizen, and how this was put upon these boys for a crime they didn't commit.
And for the men who lived it, validation.
A series like this paints the picture of what it is like to be a person of color in America, for what we went through and what it represents for the rest of the world is tremendous.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks.
All right, you guys. So that was a bit of an update of those young men. Well, grown men now. Hell, they're, older than me. Grown men now. And I'm really glad that their story's being told, because like I said, so many of us, especially if you're not from the East Coast or New York, really didn't know about it or didn't know like the full story. So I'm glad that Ava Duvernay made this her passion project and she brought it to life. So let me read this last super chat. Jay McCullough says, this is another reason why I'm obtaining my law degree and hopefully running for Congress. Amen, sis. anything you want to do, you can definitely put your mind to it. And we need more people in our criminal justice system. The reason why things like this happen is because there's not a lot of black lawyers, black judges, black prosecutors. Well, we don't need more black prosecutors, black defense attorneys. You feel me? So we need to start pushing that. You know, we need to start making that look cool and hip and chic. Every kid cannot be a rapper. Everybody cannot be LeBron James. There's only one LeBron. We can't all be Beyonce, okay? We need to start encouraging kids to start getting into practices such as law. Because the people who are being predominantly affected are people of color, especially black people. So we need to start pushing kids towards those degrees. Because I think once there's people who look like us in these courtrooms, there won't be as much fuckery. Okay? When there's no one who looks like you, who can see sympathy in you, that's when you get cases like this. So the whole situation is just really sad what happened. But if you have not seen it, I definitely recommend that you guys check out How They See Us. It's on Netflix, directed by Ava Duvernay. A great story. I'm glad I was able to watch it. Thank you to everybody. I'm glad I know more about this situation. And I just feel so bad for those young boys. I feel bad for everyone who was negatively affected in this case. You know, but yeah. So it's already 8 o'clock here. I've been on for like an hour and 20 minutes. I don't want to make this too long for the people who may miss the stream and they want to play it back. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready to log off. But thank you to everybody who joined me tonight. Thank you guys for all the super chats. Sorry, YouTube is still freezing and running slow. I don't know why. So if I missed some of your super chats, I do apologize, but I really appreciate the love and support. So I will see you guys later. You guys have a good evening, okay? Bye.